You can kill innocence. You can kill freedom. But you can't kill progress.
Two crazy things happened before I decided that I was just gonna screw it and shoot this review in the basement. I went out to go and shoot this thing 2 separate times, and both times technology failed me, and I had to just scrap all of this idea of shooting this one externally. I feel like this review may have had a little technology curse over it, which is apropos because I'm talking about Deus Ex Mankind Divided, which is of course the sequel to Deus Ex Human Revolution, developed by Eidos Montreal. Hello Eidos Montreal. I was a huge fan of Human Revolution. I thought that was a phenomenal debut for the studio, but also just a terrific, thoughtful, scary kind of Blade Runner-esque kind of look into the future. Elias Toufexis did a great job in the role of Adam Jensen, and I like the storytelling, I like the enemies that you squared off against, and of course I loved all of the augmentations. Now most of that stuff is back here for Mankind Divided, and of course we're picking up where we left off from Human Revolution. It's a couple of years after the events and the big event, which was the Augs being poisoned by this crazy virus and killing all these humans. So there is this understandable suspicion and bigotry that exists in the world, which is, obviously a parallel and a reflection of the bigotry that exists in present day Earth and stuff that we are still as a human race working out. But imagine what life is going to be like when some of us are robotic and some of us aren't. And that's what Deus Ex kind of proposes. Now what happens is that now that this cataclysmic event has happened and all of these virally infected, robotically enhanced individuals have turned against regular human beings, and there's been all of these murders. There's a lot of attention and conflict between the Augs and the non-Augs, which kind of parallels a little bit of the X-Men kind of vibe as well. There is an augmented rights coalition that rises up that is talking about almost the spiritual ascension of these robotically enhanced individuals, which is kind of a cool proposition in the storytelling as well. And Adam Jensen, who plays an Interpol operative, part of Task Force 29, he gets kind of thrust in the middle of all of this because he has to keep the peace, and there are bombs going off and innocent people getting killed, and he's trying to figure out how he can keep the peace and believe the people that he is working with, and deal with the counterculture sort of underground kind of element that exists in this fiction. And so he's sort of this important cog in this machine that is whirling all around. Mostly the setting of this game is in a futuristic version, a dystopian version of Prague, and that is wonderfully embellished for us. It's a really, really nice trip into this terrible place. I mean, there are wires and extension cords and cables everywhere, but bits and pieces of broken robotics and machinery jutting out in all kinds of directions. Well, that's the world that Adam Jensen lives in. Even his kind of dusty, dungy apartment that he wakes up in Prague is depressing, And then he goes to work and he doesn't know who to believe. He doesn't know if his colleagues are to be believed. And then he meets people that are kind of rallying against this sort of corporate overlords that are, keeping the regular citizens down or taking away the rights of augmented citizens. So it plays with some pretty cool, heavy themes, and I think pretty effectively. But this is a video game that gives you so many different ways to approach every single scenario, and you know the drill. It's part stealth, it's part hacking. You can also get into gun conflict if you want. You can go in guns blazing. Of course, the developers don't recommend it. I don't recommend it. You will have to save many, many times because you will die if all hell breaks loose and you really have no other option than to start shooting at folks. Get ready to get killed and have to start levels over again. And that loading to restart is kind of a drag in this game. This is the section of the review where I'm going to give you a few of my complaints. One of them that I think is a little bit sort of a little too overt, too noticeable, is the fade to black that we go to every time we're about to curl up and punch somebody or stab them with that arm knife that Adam Jensen has. That's kind of a distracting element because it just sort of loses that fluidity that the game is really working itself up to provide. But we also lose that fluidity when we get into conversations with characters which are well scripted and really well acted, and I love all of these international voices that are in the game. That's one thing that I really recognize about games that are developed either in Europe, in France, or in Montreal or something like that. There is this more sort of globally minded population within the game construct, and I dig that very much. I like opening emails and they're in French, and it's not all over the place, but I just like the embellishments and the details like that, and that certainly exists in there. But all that being said, some of these conversations are a little bit stiff, and the characters kind of move a little bit weird in their faces, and you can kind of feel the game is creaking a bit on some of the established technology, some of the established engine technology that is at work here. And in 2016, especially, after we've seen a triumph like Uncharted 4 with all of its unbelievable facial modeling and textures and lighting effects, it definitely doesn't reach those high heights. And it doesn't also reach the heights of the surprise that Human Revolution delivered, right? This isn't an out of nowhere thing. That was a big hit. It was a great game if you were into video games, if you were into mature video games with, thoughtful storytelling. We got behind that one in a big way. So the expectation for this has been enormous. And certainly Eidos Montreal had to live up to that and sort of overcome that. And I think in totality they do, because they do give you this really fleshed out game world. The prog that they've developed for us is a lot more about verticality and going, and reaching into different places and being able to leap up and clamber up and jump up into windows and sneak through all kinds of cool environments. So there is a tremendous amount of detail, but it still feels like we're doing this on technology that needs to advance a little bit further, which is a little bit ironic if you're talking about a game like this. But they also added, in addition to a really robust story with some terrific side mission tangents, as well as the sort of through-line narrative, which does leave you with a bunch of loose ends when you get to the end, because I think the idea here is to keep going with this wisely. I think on Square Enix's part and also on Eidos Montreal's part, they know they got something good here and they're going to keep going in lots of different directions. One of them is introduced in this game right now with Breach, which is this asymmetrical multiplayer type of experience, which distills all of the core mechanics of the game, the hacking, all of the stealthing, the killing, the stabbing, all the fun stuff that you want to talk about, down to this sort of more arcadey, almost like a Tron arcade game kind of thing. Everything's kind of neon, and there aren't tons of graphic textures and things like that around the environments. Your character is not Adam Jensen. It's just this sort of cubey, triangular, polygonal avatar type creation. But you have all of the mobility and all of the augmented skills that an Adam Jensen has in the story. You just kind of earn them in a different way here, and you're trying to progress through and hack these cubes as quickly as possible, not get seen, or get seen and take out the bad guys. It's fun. You get your score at the end, you get your time at the end, you unlock little cards. You can see that there's this economy at play here, that maybe this Breach mode could be splintered off into its own little thing, potentially becomes a mobile diversion or something like that later on. Maybe a free-to-play kind of taste test of the Deus Ex kind of vibe. It's cool that it's included in there, but you cannot help but wonder how those resources that went into Breach might have benefited the story mode, which is the real reason why I think you want to play a Deus Ex game. So you can kind of feel that splintering of resources and assets and focus a little bit. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there, because it's you applaud the developers for giving us more and this bounty of stuff, and it certainly goes to justify the full ticket price of the game, but you also wonder maybe some of the decision-making should have just been focused on our singular experience here. Listen, I think this is a great game. I think this is a fantastic franchise. I will say that the inventory management and moving between the augments and dealing with the second-to-second kind of crush of enemies that discover you and start shooting at you, it does get a little overwhelming, and it's a little clunkier than I want it to be. I feel like you're still at least I was, all the way to the end of the game, pressing the wrong thing, activating the wrong thing, getting shot and killed because I didn't maneuver in my menu fast enough, or I toggled, on the radial wheel where you pick all the guns. I picked the wrong thing and I got shot and killed. I mean, it speaks to the amount of content that's in there, but it also does get a little bit overwhelming. Even still, very cool game, definitely worth the ticket price, and I think you should all be playing it, especially if you like great games. I'm gonna give Deus Ex Mankind Divided 8.5 out of 10. Hey, thanks for checking out that video on our EPN channel. It's just one small part of the things that we make around here. So if you liked it, don't forget to check out some of our other vids and hit that subscribe button.